More than 1 million people take an Alaskan cruise every year, making the 49th US state one of the world's most popular cruise destinations. So today on Planet Cruise Weekly, we're taking a closer look at what it's like to cruise Alaska. Well, hello and welcome to episode 64 of Planet Cruise Weekly, the UK's only cruise info show where we discuss and explore the wonderful world of cruising and offer you inside info and advice. I'm Keith, I'm an ex-cruise director, and this week I'm joined by our destination expert Jade, who's just returned from cruising in Alaska. How jealous am I? And funnily enough, by coincidence, this week we're looking at Alaska. Who'd have thought? Could this be planned? Jade, how was Alaska? Tell us.
It was amazing, Keith. I had such an amazing time. Nothing can prepare you for the sights you're going to see there. And I was on a Holland America ship, which I was also really impressed with.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to find out more, I'm sure. So here is Keith and Jade's guide to cruising Alaska. So let's first of all have a little brief overview of Alaska itself.
So it's known for its dramatic landscapes and icy glaciers. It's the 49th state of the United States and is actually the largest in the US and has the only US state capital that's not accessible by car, meaning that the best way to experience it and explore it is via cruise.
Alaska has many highlights and unique selling points, such as Mount McKinley, the highest peak in North America, glaciers larger than countries, and the biggest national park in the US. Brown bears, moose, musk, oxen, lynx, the short-tailed wildcat and grey wolves are just some of the animals that roam this wild region. While on the water, there's incredible opportunities for whale watching with orcas, killer whales, and pods of dolphins, a very common sight.
One of the advantages of Alaska as a destination is that a lot of the wildlife can be seen and enjoyed from the deck of your ship. And what I noticed when I was there as well, Keith, is how good it is for people with limited mobility as well.
Absolutely, because you can see so much without having to get off and go anywhere. So when is the best time to cruise Alaska? Well, Alaska's weather and daylight hours, along with the fact that many attractions close outside the high season, mean that most cruises run from May to early September. However, some cruise lines do operate voyages in April and late September, and these of course will tend to be a little bit cheaper.
High season is typically June through to August, but the best time to go is rather subjective. So if you want warm weather, the best months are June, July and August, with highs in the 50s to 70s, but be warned, they can also be quite rainy.
Now, if you're more focused on the wildlife, then the further into the summer you are, the better your chances of seeing that wildlife will be.
The shoulder season months of April, May and mid to late September often offer cheaper cruise fares and fewer crowds, but it is worth noting that shore excursions have a greater chance of being cancelled, especially boat and helicopter tours, just in case of the weather.
Now, if you do want to avoid the rain and maybe see some snow, then cruise in May. And if you want the best opportunity to witness the Northern Lights, then cruise in September. But the only other thing to remember is that the Gulf of Alaska is choppier in September, so if you struggle with the motion of the ocean, then that's 1 month to avoid. So let's now take a few minutes to look at the main highlights and ports of call that you're likely to visit. First up, Ketchikan.
So located on an island, Ketchikan began its life as an Indian fishing camp and is famous for its colourful totem poles, rainy skies, steep as San Francisco streets and lush island settings. Some 13,500 people call the town their home, and in the summer, cruise ships crowd to the shorelines with more than 2 million acres of sheer granite cliffs, 1,000-foot waterfalls and crystalline lakes.
Greek Street is the main attraction of the town itself. It's built on pilings over the water, and it was the city's red light district originally, but now it's lined with funky stores and restaurants.
You'll get a chance to spot the eagles of Ketchikan, which nest in the surrounding mountains, or take in the log rolling and buck soaring of the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. And I can tell you, Keith, I saw that when I was there. It was so much fun.
Can I ask a question? Did they sing that song? I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay, I work all day. No?
They didn't. They did the running on the logs, so it was great.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. Plus, Ketchikan is an outdoor person's paradise with activities that you won't find anywhere else, except in Alaska, of course. There's off-roading, kayaking, hiking, nature watching, flight seeing, zip lining, and much more. Next up, Skagway, and it's here you'll get to trace the footsteps of the thousands who flocked to Alaska and the Yukon with the hope of striking it rich. At its peak, it was home to over 20,000 gold hunters, but these days only around 1,000 actually call it home. Now the undoubted highlight here is to ride the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad, known as the scenic railway of the world. It's a 41-mile round trip and it offers you unforgettable sights as you journey to the summit of the White Pass at nearly 3,000 foot in elevation. And it follows the amazingly photogenic route that the gold seekers took originally on foot over the pass to the Canadian border.
The other highlight is to relive the colour and history of the Yukon gold rush. There are tours to the old camps where you can go and pan for gold and meet a few costume characters who'll show you what the life was like during the boomtown days back in the 1800s.
Now, Juneau is Alaska's capital and it can't be reached by road. And in fact, it's the perfect blend of bustling city and breathtaking wilderness. And just north of the city sits a spectacular 12-mile-long Hubbard Glacier. It's an ice river that's part of the 1,500-mile Juneau ice field. Hiking, canoeing or kayaking are the main options offered for you to get closer to this natural wonder, but for the best perspective of its sheer size and majesty, we advise taking one of the flight seeing tours in traditional Alaskan seaplane.
In town, the Mount Roberts tramway takes riders 1,800 feet up for gorgeous views and hiking trails, or you can head out on a whale watching trip to see the humpbacks and orcas play.
So next up it is Sitka, and it's hard not to like Sitka. It's got an eclectic blend of native Alaska, Russian and American history, and its dramatic and beautiful open ocean setting is really stunning. It's one of the best inside passage towns to explore on foot, with such sites as St Michael's Cathedral, Sheldon Jackson Museum, Castle Hill and the Sitka National Historical Park to explore. But I particularly like the Alaskan Raptor Center, which is dedicated to providing medical care for injured bald eagles and other birds.
You can also try your hand at some king salmon and halibut fishing, with the chance to catch your own dinner. Or watch the new Archangel Dancers, a local all-female group which performs authentic Russian and Ukrainian dances of a bygone era in full costume to preserve the history and culture of Russian Alaska.
Now, stretching from Puget Sound, Washington through to British Columbia and into the Gulf of Alaska, the Inside Passage includes more than 1,000 islands, a seemingly endless shoreline and thousands of idyllic coves and bays. There are some serene waters where one moment you can be sailing a wide bay of barrier islands and the next moment you're cruising through a narrow waterway flanked by towering forested walls. It's a place where whales and sea lions often find refuge during summer months, and where you'll often have a naturalist on board to offer a commentary as you sail.
So next we want to talk about the Hubbard Glacier. Nicknamed the Galloping Glacier, this East Alaskan glacier is rapidly advancing towards the Gulf of Alaska into a pristine area known as Disenchantment Bay. And at 76 miles long, it plunges 1,200 feet into the depths of the bay. Its immense beauty and phenomenal blue hues are enchanting, even from afar. But it's when you're on the cruise ship and as it draws closer, its towering surfaces really impresses, dwarfing even the utmost deck of your ship at a whopping 40 stories high. There, with the snow-capped mountains serving as a glorious backdrop, you'll have a prime viewing spot of which to witness the glacier calving, as it often expels the icebergs the size of 10-story buildings into the water. Imagine the splashes on that.
Now, the area around Hubbard Glacier is also renowned for its wildlife, where whales, harbour seals and otters swim, brown bears, moose and black-tailed deer roam ashore, and a wide variety of seabirds soar gracefully across the sky. Now, located on the Chinnagoff Island, Icy Strait Point is built on the site of the former Hoona Packing Company salmon cannery. Try saying that after you've had a few. Now, the restored outbuildings house a variety of restaurants, a museum, and local arts and craft shops, and they act as a cultural hub for the original inhabitants of the area, the Hoona people.
So next up we've got Seward. Now, it's really hard to believe that a place as beautiful as Seward actually exists. It's surrounded on all sides by fjords, forests and the serene Resurrection Bay. Seward is a small railroad town set amongst jaw-dropping scenery.
Now, loads to do here, including travelling to the Kenai Fords National Park or hiking or skiing amongst the beautiful mountains. You can even kayak the tide pools along the fjords and explore the Exit Glacier while mushing your own dog sledding team, which is probably one of my favourite things to do. Now, a boat excursion or flight seeing tours do also offer up close glimpses of the Harding Icefields glaciers, the majesty of the dramatic Kenai fjords and the dense greenery of the National Forest. Or you can tour the waters of the Resurrection Bay and join local anglers to fish the coho salmon and halibut. And make sure you keep an eye out for those bright-billed puffins, friendly otters, sea lions and humpback whales. It really is a paradise.
You can take a coffee break in Seward's quaint downtown, or find a mount and explore the areas of the shoreline which is only accessible on horseback, including the old town of Seward, which sadly was levelled by the Good Friday earthquake.
Now, Anchorage is probably the most cosmopolitan stop in Alaska. Moose wander the neighbourhoods, eagles soar overhead, world-class hotels and fine cuisine are just a stone's throw from settlers' cabins. In fact, it's the perfect fusion of glaciers, mountains, wildlife, native culture and the best shopping in Alaska. In fact, we recommend that you shop in the morning and then maybe wander the 11-mile coastal trail in the afternoon. And with nearly 20 hours of sunlight in the summer, the city is a colourful oasis of flowers.
Highlights here include the Anchorage Museum, which boasts a superb collection of native Alaskan art and artefacts, as well as paintings and pioneer treasures. And a visit to Lake Hood, the largest floatplane base in the world, where you can take advantage of all that daylight with a flight seeing tour to view the brown bears of Redoubt Bay, or to explore the magnificent Mount McKinley.
Now, you may well be asking yourself, which cruise line should I take for an Alaskan cruise? Well, for a start, both Princess and Holland America do offer the best selection of cruises in Alaska, but there are other companies that go there as well. Oceania, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Disney, Celebrity Carnival, they all also visit. And excitingly, several of the smaller luxury cruise lines that offer a more exclusive Alaskan experience, such as Regent Seven Seas, Silver Sea and Seabourn, have now started to cruise in Alaska. And more importantly, they offer new scenic cruising options that are off limits to the larger vessels. There are several itinerary options open to you for cruising in Alaska.
And the most popular are the 7-night round-trip voyages through the Inside Passage that typically tend to sail from Seattle or Vancouver. The Inside Passage is a sheltered waterway and the seas are calm. The main ports are mostly Juneau, Skagway and Ketchikan, but some ships stop in Icy Strait, Haines or Petersburg. Sailings from Seattle must call on a Canadian port, so typically Victoria or Vancouver.
The Gulf of Alaska itinerary is a 7-night one-way cruise between Seattle or Vancouver and Seward and Whittier, which is the gateway port for Anchorage. Now, a typical Gulf of Alaska cruise will probably include the likes of Ketchikan, Juneau and Skagway, as well as Sitka, and a short scenic cruise through the Inside Passage.
A few lines offer longer 10 to 14 night Alaska cruises, often round trip or one way from San Francisco. Holland America offers a 2-week trip that can actually dock in Anchorage, which gives you options for long day trips into the interior.
Now, for cruisers who prefer to focus on the nature and wildlife rather than the main ports of call, then there are a couple of companies offering expedition-style cruises in Alaska. And in fact, if you are interested in expedition cruising full stop, if you click the link now, it takes you through to episode 15 of Planet Cruise Weekly, where we look at expedition cruising. And the advantage of these small ships is that they can go to places that the big boys can't, and they have manoeuvrability to follow aquatic life, within the rules, of course, when it's spotted. Plus, many also employ Zodiac rafts, kayaks and hiking trips to bring passengers closer to the glaciers and the wildlife itself. Okay, so time for some top tips for cruising Alaska, and the first one is that we recommend definitely adding on a land tour either before or after you sail. They're normally 3 or 7 nights and they give you a chance to see a completely different part of Alaska. Or maybe you might want to bolt on a Rocky Mountaineer, which again will give you the chance to go through some incredible wilderness and even head through to the Rockies, hence the name. So if you do want to do that, speak to any of the team or click the link there and it will take you through to the website.
If you struggle with sea or motion sickness, then book a northbound cruise so that you'll only enter the choppier Gulf of Alaska at the end of your cruise, once you've actually got your sea legs. And maybe think twice about the longer cruises out of Seattle, where you'll spend 2 days sailing in the open ocean.
Also, in many parts of the world, especially the UK, the weather is unpredictable in Alaska, and even on a sunny day, once you sail under the shadow of a glacier, it can rapidly cool down. So make sure you dress with layers that you can peel off or pull on, or else you might get sunburnt like someone I know nearby.
Yeah, and don't forget your sunglasses, because when you're around all that snow and ice and the water as well, it can be really reflective.
And you mentioned as well that you'd forgotten your binoculars and there weren't any on board. So you obviously weren't sailing in a suite.
No, you get binoculars usually in most cruise line suite cabins, but yeah, don't forget the binoculars.
Don't forget your binoculars. And finally, if you want to avoid the crowds during a high season cruise, then select a mid-week departure. Well, there we go. Hopefully that has given you a bit more background into Alaska. Before we go any further though, or before you leave us, can we just say that please do get in contact. Let us know if you've been to Alaska, let us know if you want to go to Alaska, let us know suggestions for further episodes. Again, the show is built around your comments and your feedback. If people want to get in touch, Jade, how do they do that?
So you can write to us at hello@planetcruise.co.uk, like us on Facebook, Twitter, or comment on the video below.
Absolutely, and we want to say a big thank you to the people that got in touch over the past week. First of all to Boat Lover, great name, he said another nice video. The aircraft carrier in Charleston is the Yorktown. It's a very interesting museum, particularly if you like aviation or military history. There's also a smaller Navy frigate and submarine that can be toured as well. Don't miss out on the other side of the river. Charleston is a beautiful city. So thank you very much, Boat Lover, for that. That was of course in response to our piece that we did last week, which was on wacky excursions, and if you missed that, click the link there. The other feedback we had as well, again about our wacky excursion episode last week, which proved quite popular funnily enough, was from Deborah Harewood. She said, I don't know about the sharks, but flying the jet, that could work. I finally booked a cruise to the Panama Canal and I'd love to see any suggestions for excursions in Colón and also Puerto Limón. Well, Deborah, good news is, in the next couple of months, we are going to be covering cruising the Panama Canal, one of my favourite places to go in the world. So keep watching and we'll answer those questions very, very soon. Thanks very much. Have a good week and yeah, we'll see you in 7 days.